Nations League champions beating Spain in the final on penalties, winning 5-3 after it was 2-2 after extra time. We'll welcome in Frank Leboeuf and Jurgen Klinsmann, who are watching this game for us as well. But let me start in here with you guys. It was another decent showing in the Nations League, a good final.
It was, and it's two teams that we must say, looking ahead to next year's World Cup, they have to be among the very favorites going into that competition. Both teams have more than enough talent in the attack. They have more than enough talent in the midfield. Both teams have frailties in the back line. Those frailties actually sometimes come by design. When you think of Portugal today, and an outstanding player for Portugal today, Nuno Mendes was that guy. But he is given the freedom to be in advanced positions all the time. Same thing similarly to Joao Neves, who's given the freedom to then tuck into the midfield. When he did that over the course of the first half to try and help and create mismatches in terms of number in the midfield, it created a natural counter-attacking opportunity for Spain and Nico Williams going over the top, which then exposed those frailties that I'm talking about. And you can say the same thing about Spain. While they're so good going forward and the way that they control the ball through the midfield and how dynamic they can be with Lamine Yamal and how dynamic they can be with Nico Williams today in particular, anytime you get Spain isolated in 1v1 situations, in moments of transition, they're suffering defensively. Both teams showed a lot in this competition. Both teams will be favorites or among the favorites going into the World Cup, but both teams have work to do to get there and actually get the job done.
Would you agree with that, Stevie?
Yeah, I think so. I think both teams can improve in certain areas, and I think for Spain, I think they need to get some more depth, because I think the difference in this was Portugal. The changes they were able to make, I thought made them stronger. And like the semi-final, when Spain made the changes, I thought they dropped off. So if there was one thing I would say, particularly about Spain, if they can get a better squad who, when he makes changes and brings players on, they actually have an impact, the way the Portuguese players made an impact.
And to that point, Stevie, just very quickly, I would say that some of the decisions by Luis de la Fuente today were interesting. You need energy in an attacking position or through the midfield. You got guys like Fermin Lopez, or you have Dani Olmo, and they're sitting on the bench. And then you have Mikel Oyarzabal, who was really good today for 60, 70, maybe even 75 minutes. But Mikel Oyarzabal can't quite move all that well anymore at this point in his career. And he's not a center forward per se. And yet they kept him out there into the extra time. And you kind of go, a little bit more athleticism, a little bit of spark that can stretch the back line of Portugal. That never actually happened unless it was coming from Nico Williams, because most of the time today, Lamine Yamal, instead of taking the ball forward, took a touch forward, then a touch back, and then combined with the midfields. We didn't see enough of Lamine Yamal actually taking players on in 1v1 situations.
We definitely saw enough of Nuno Mendes, though, Jurgen. What a performance from him.
Yeah, fantastic performance by Nuno Mendes. Certainly, probably a man of the match. But I want to follow up on Steve and Alejandro. Is that you see there are two teams that are in a very mature phase towards the World Cup 2026 next year in the US, Mexico, and Canada. You know, they're building their roster. Obviously, there is still room for improvement within their roster. There's always room for improvement there. But the level, the standard that they play or give out to all the opponents worldwide is very, very high. You know, so this was the last couple of days, you know, having watched them now in these two matches, each team has been fantastic. You know, what Portugal did, you know, against Germany and what they did today, and Spain, obviously, with the match against France, 5-4. And there's obviously a French side that always has a say in Europe. Is one of the strongest ones as well. But they show pure class. They show so much talent. They are not shy, especially in case of Spain, you know, to bring in youngsters at the age of 19, 20, 21, or obviously Lamine Yamal at 17. So who does that have in the world of football? You know, I mean, obviously their biggest counterpart is in South America with Argentina. And what I see with Portugal, a team that is now maturing towards that World Cup next year, that has one old lad, I would call him, you know, to take with but very, very hungry. Ronaldo at 40 years of age, which is similar to the situation that had Argentina and Qatar with Messi. The whole team was working their backsides off for Messi. And the similar thing I see now with Portugal. Everybody bought into that phenomenon. Ronaldo, everybody bought in to help him wherever they can, because once the moment comes and he has to put the ball in the back of the net, he's there. He's there.
Yeah,
and he scored his 138th goal today.
And today he wasn't that good, but he was always sharp to know exactly, and the goal shows his talent and his flair and of course his experience. So that's good for Portugal and for the next year. And after, as Jürgen mentioned, after the World Cup for Messi, it will be fantastic to close down this era of two wonderful players, that Ronaldo getting the World Cup straight after, making sure that those players, they get out of the football with the Holy Grail. So Ronaldo is a leader, and he showed it today, and he will try to come back at some point, try to hold the ball, try to work for the team, not asking too much for the ball like he used to do, and pushing the others to choose him. That was sane, I would say, during those two games. And he scored the 2 goals, so that's great for him. That's a very good competition for Ronaldo.
You'd have to think, if Portugal can find somebody between now and the World Cup to play centre forward, so that you're not having Ronaldo playing, that could change the way that they can go about winning games as well. Because right now, when they have Ronaldo up front, they can't do what Spain have been doing and closing people down. They can't do it, because Ronaldo can't do it. If they can find somebody between now and next year, I mean, that gives them another string to their bow. Because when Ronaldo plays up front, they can't go closing the ball, because they just can't do it, because he doesn't have the legs to do it. So if there's one of these teams can get quite a bit better, I would suggest it would be Portugal, if they can come up with an alternative.
Would you replace Ronaldo right now?
Yeah, but
though?
Stevie,
Winning games for them.
There is something. Go ahead, Frank. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Stevie. I just want to jump on what Stevie said. That's the first time that I find Spain having issues working offensively against a team. And so, therefore, for me, Portugal doesn't need to close up and to press high. They know, because of the midfielder they have and the defender they have, that they can control the best team in the world right now. And because Spain have shown that. So it's not really an issue for me that Ronaldo, because of Ronaldo, they cannot close up a little bit higher. For me, they showed today that they were able to cope with that situation.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, as an issue. I'm saying that Portugal, if they can change and have the option to go and close the ball and put teams under pressure, that to me would make them a better side, because now they can, depending on the opposition, they can either sit back and do what they did today, or they can go and press high and close people because they have the legs. So I just think that Portugal have the capability of getting even better than they are.
There is something beautiful to be appreciated about Cristiano Ronaldo's confidence, borderline arrogance. At 40 years old, he scores a goal today, and his first reaction is, grabs the ball and says one. One meaning, I only need one chance. You just give me one chance, I'll put it in the back of the net. That's what I read from it, that he feels, even at this point in his career, all he needs is one opportunity. My concern with Ronaldo, while I agree with you, Stevie, that they don't press the ball as well as they could, if indeed they had somebody who had fresher legs, who had younger legs, who had more pace than Ronaldo has at this point in his career. My concern is, if we project forward to 2026 in the World Cup, we just saw it today. He played 2 high-intensity games back-to-back, 3 days from each other, and got injured in the second of those games. If we're thinking of Portugal in winning a World Cup, we're thinking about a long tournament in which they're going to play games every 3rd day, every 4th day, high-intensity matches. Ronaldo, I don't think, at this point in his career, is in a place where he can do that consistently. Now, he can do it for short periods of time. He can do it 2 games at a time. Over the course of a month doing it, that's a different question. And also, I'm also curious as to the emotions of Cristiano Ronaldo today once they won. I don't want to read into it, but I suppose it's part of our job. That emotion from Cristiano Ronaldo winning this competition means what exactly?
What's your response to what the guys are saying, Jurgen?
Well, I think Cristiano Ronaldo, just from the outside, obviously, I met him many times, but it's not that I know him, inside out. He's a personality. He wants always more, and this celebration that he showed today is, one more title. I have one more. He's just looking always for the next big thing. And the next big thing he knows is the World Cup next year. And I see a lot of similarities with Argentina in Qatar. They all played for Messi, and I see this Portuguese side. It almost feels like they all want to play for Ronaldo. They want to give Ronaldo this very, very special, possibility to win the World Cup. And he's gonna live for that one. He's gonna sleep. He's gonna eat. He's gonna work. He's gonna do everything possible to make it happen. And his phenomenon is simply that he only, as Alejandro said, he only needs one chance and scores one goal. So I saw Germany this morning, obviously they had 10 chances in the first half. They could have destroyed France with 4, 5, 6 goals in the first half, which they didn't. They didn't score one goal, not even. France wins the game 2-0 because this is the thing. If you have somebody like Cristiano who just needs 1 or 2 opportunities to score, so you keep him. And what Roberto Martinez did miraculous, I think, fantastically, is to reintegrate Cristiano Ronaldo in that team, to build this team based on everybody's strengths. And that's what he's doing. So maybe everybody's strength is not to press as high as Spain does, and do this, what other teams maybe do, but he knows the strengths of Ronaldo, the strengths of Bruno Fernandes, and now with Nuno Mendes coming from the left, this is a fantastic side, and I think they will be among the favorites for next year's World Cup.
What did you think of Lamine Yamal today, Ale?
I thought it was a tired performance from Lamine Yamal. I thought a couple of touches very early on, you kind of go, doesn't seem to have a lot of life in his legs. And the decision that he was making with the ball at his feet, unlike what we have seen most of the season, seemed to be quite conservative. A couple of times he tried to take players on, was unsuccessful doing that, and then he settled for first touch back, second touch back, sideways passing. A couple of times he looked for that sort of outside of the left foot pass, didn't quite work out, and so it kind of felt to me like he didn't quite have it today. He knew he didn't quite have it, and so he was more focused on how do I become an outlet to maintain possession for the team rather than how am I a game changer, a game breaker for Spain. That was happening far more often by Nico Williams down the left-hand side than it was from Lamine Yamal down the right.
Top corner, side net, and I mean, it doesn't get any better. You can't play any better if you're Mendes today.
There is no better left back in the world right now than Nuno Mendes. Now, if you want to think of him as a left back or not, we don't know, because he appears in positions in which left back should not be. And yet, not only does he appear there, he does something productive with the ball. The change of pace, the speed over short distances, the speed over long distances, how he creates separation, and his decision-making in the final third, in the attacking half, has improved over time to where now there is productivity behind it, not only from the goal, but eventually providing assists. He did so in the game against Germany, and he was involved in the second goal today as well. But to your point, Stevie, perhaps the biggest play he made today was when Pedri came in the box, cut to the inside, cut to the outside, and there he was, Nuno Mendes making a block that could have made the game 3-2 at the time. It remained 2-2, and eventually Portugal win it. Nuno Mendes has been outstanding, was outstanding today, and again, there's no better left back in the world right now.
He's looking like a very special player, Frank.
Yes, he is, and I saw him playing when I saw him arriving for Paris Saint-Germain, and the first game that he had, it wasn't the same. That guy is simply full of confidence. He feels the game. All his choices are good. He makes everything perfect, simple, straightforward. And as the guy said, today he showed to the world he's the best fullback in the world and on the left side. So nothing much to say. I loved him. I love his confidence. And I was scared for the penalty that he had because I say, well, if he misses, that will be unlucky. But that's a perfect night for him. Everything has been perfect. Even the penalty is the best penalty of the nine shot. So that's perfect for Nuno Mendes today.
2-0 it would finish. Jurgen, that's back-to-back losses there for Nagelsmann. Does it bring up any concerns for you with the World Cup just a year away?
This Nations League finals in Germany, and when you play at home, then at least you want to go into the final, and you want to, or at least you win the third place game if you have to play the little final then. And so it's a bummer. It's a bummer. It's a disappointment. And there were a lot of positive signs after the Euros, because as you saw today in the game from Spain, they booed Cucurella the whole time because of this handball, in the Euros. And so they're looking back like it was not fair what happened to them at the Euros, but they got, in these couple of days, they got a kind of a statement that they are not there yet. They have a way to go. So there's a lot of need for improvement. There are a lot of more question marks now after these two games than there were before. So there's a lack of leadership, there's a lack of physicality, there's a lack of speed, and obviously they say, Musiala was not there, one of their kind of most creative players, but it was two displays, they are not satisfactory, and therefore the media in Germany will go up and down and will discuss a lot of things, and it's a disappointment to be on fourth place in a Final Four. There's no doubt about it.
Is there a gap in quality here between a Germany side and the likes of what we've just seen in that final between Spain and Portugal?
I don't want to make light of it, but yeah, there is. And I will tell you, the most obvious position to see that is, and Jurgen is very familiar with this position, playing striker for Germany. Now, I don't want to speak for Jurgen, but not since Miroslav Klose can we look back and think and say that there has been a top-tier striker playing for Germany to score the goals consistently. We are now in the era of Niklas Füllkrug, Nick Woltemade, who was making the debut with Germany in this last couple of games, and as good as he may be, well, he is not top-tier when it comes to strikers around the world. And if they're not around, the guy who would have played, had he not been injured, would have been Tim Kleindings. We know who Tim Kleinding is, but most people out there would be like, who? Who Tim Kleinding? Who's that guy? Well, yes, starting forward for Borussia Mönchengladbach, and yet he has become the answer somewhat in the attack of Germany. Those are not names that you associate with consistent productivity. So while we're having a discussion about Cristiano Ronaldo scoring the goals for Portugal, while we're having a discussion about Kylian Mbappe scoring the goals for France, we're talking about Niklas Füllkrug, and we're talking about Tim Kleindings, and we're talking about Nick Woltemade, and we're talking about, in the past, Timo Werner, and we're talking about, and you're looking for names until you get to Miroslav Klose, and then eventually you get to Jurgen way back when. The truth of the matter is that Germany has, to use your words, a gap in quality, not only in that position. I would argue that they have a gap in quality, and more importantly, strength and leadership in the midfield. Too easily, teams get through Germany through the midfield. Too easily, teams create chances against Germany. And if there was something that historically, and again, Jurgen can speak to this, that historically you associate with German teams is toughness, fight, discipline. How many times did Germany in this couple of games got stretched, got out of position, did not recover defensively, were not organized behind the ball? All those things that we associate with Germany, not quite the case right now.
Jurgen?
No, it's totally right, Alejandro. It's an issue that goes on now for quite a while, and obviously there was the hope through the performances in the European Championship that this gap is not that big. We hoped so because the performances were kind of okay. But still, if you as a German team, you go out in the quarterfinals, no matter who now your opponent is, if you go out in the quarterfinals, it's a big disappointment. It's not acceptable. That's just the standard that it should be for Germany. And right now, there's so many issues, not only the number 9 that we don't have on the highest quality. We rely on 2 youngsters basically going forward. That's Musiala and that's Florian Wirtz. but we don't have the same level of aggressiveness and physicality that you're used to from German teams, and we have problems in the back line, and so there's quite a lot of work ahead of Julian Nagelsmann. There's no doubt about it, but it makes the German fans worry now about the next year, leading into the World Cup. But definitely this was a lesson that they took now in the last two games that hopefully it was needed, but it is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for Germany.
Frank Leboeuf, you must be a little happier given that France won this game.
Oh, yeah, a little, as you said, because I don't forget that the first half, that was a kind of a robbery when Mbappe scored, because it's been absolutely horrendous from the national team. It wasn't enough from the national team. The second half was a bit better, and they deserved to get those maybe 3 points because of the second half. But yes, they will have to readjust some stuff, to work harder, and if they want to not make the same kind of game against Spain, losing 4-0, you will have to be more solid, of course, more tuned in, and maybe at that point you can be called among the favourites of the next World Cup.
You get the final say here, Stevie.
Do you know, I've got to say, France were unrecognisable in these two games. All the things that I thought about France, hard to beat, hard to play against, they were just unrecognisable the way they performed. And as Frank said, they should have been dead and buried in the first half, but they end up winning 2-0. I get it that there's a lot of injuries, but then you have to think, if you're Deschamps, well, hold on a minute, what happens if this time next year we have a load of injuries? Because the two performances for me that France put on, both in the semi and the third place playoff, were not acceptable if you're France. Absolutely not.
The US men's national team lost a third straight match on Saturday when they were defeated by 2-1 by Turkey. International friendly action in East Hartford. It adds to the disappointing losses to Panama and Mexico in the Nations League. But this is what Mauricio Pochettino had to say after the game. He said the performance was good. We faced a team like Turkey, which is a very good team, with the experienced players at the top. This group of players, after playing together for the first time, I think we started the game so well. We played 20 minutes at a high level. We did very good things, very good things. Well, here's Tyler Adams taking more positives from the game, saying, yeah, really exciting. I think for the first time probably in the past few camps, we're going to take a lot more positives away than negatives. So a good building block for a lot of those guys. A lot of them, it's their first opposition from outside of CONCACAF, which is good experience for a lot of them. The game is just a little bit different, but they played excellent tonight. Now, those two were a lot more positive than our panel were yesterday, Jurgen. So I wonder where your positivity levels are on what we've seen from the US men's national team in this game and the ones before it.
Well, it's not easy for Mauricio Pochettino, to be honest, because he never knows who he actually gets into his camp. The couple of weeks prior to getting his group of players together, and also the fans don't know. So you don't know, okay, what phase do we see, going into these friendly games and then going into the Gold Cup, and then obviously how can you build out of this number of players? How can you build then the blocks towards the World Cup next summer? And I think for Mauricio right now, it's a huge learning curve. It's getting the experience, how to kind of put things together out of the blue, because you're missing this one, you're missing that one, and you're trying to get, absolutely, he's trying to grab on the positives and is not looking too much on the result right now. If you lose then friendly games, which is right, but at the end of the day, also the fan goes to the stadium and wants to win the game. So there's so many, little pieces floating around that he needs to grab and put them together. And it's not easy for him.
Jurgen, what do you think of Pochettino's comments about players who need to be desperate to play for their national teams, like we see with other countries? That's something he said about these players, that they need to be desperate to play for their sides.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we always think should be. I mean, the culture that he's coming from obviously is another notch on identity with the national team. Argentina, they die for their national team. Did you see Messi the last couple of years missing one game at this national team? He will never miss a game. Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't miss a game, and so these kind of nations where obviously Mauricio is coming from, they think that way, and we think that way because that's our background. The background in the United States is a bit of a different one. You know, there is maybe not the highest priority into a Gold Cup, into winning a Gold Cup, okay? Because the Gold Cup traditionally, you know, was always shared by Mexico and the United States, and here and there maybe a Canadian a special side can win the trophy as well. But for us, you know, coming from a European background or South American background, you know, the Copa America is humongous, and the European Championship is humongous, you know, and then we want to win, obviously, a World Cup if possible. So I totally understand Mauricio's comments on that one, because he wants to see his players being desperate, absolutely desperate to join the national team and to give everything they have for their national team, because that's how he grew up, and therefore I absolutely understand it.
Jurgen, you mentioned about some of the players not coming to camp, and obviously, Stevie, I heard you with Dan having that back and forth over how can he know his best 11 right now? He hasn't got every player coming to camp all the time. Did you ever have that problem when you were managing the US, Jurgen, that the players not coming to camp?
Yeah, I mean, you have those problems. It depends then on the time, you know, and it depends on the competition. As I said, that's why I mentioned the Gold Cup. The Gold Cup is not seen by the players that play in Europe as the most attractive trophy to win. That's just fact, you know. For the players that are in Europe, and now the majority of the players are in Europe, a Copa America, they would be here in a heartbeat. You know, they would come right away. The Gold Cup, you know, you kind of see it every 2 years. In one competition, you have almost all the Europeans in there. In the next competition of the Gold Cup 2 years later, then you have mostly the MLS-based players, you know. So how do you want to grow then this kind of a feeling within the players to say, you know what, you got to come no matter what. This is the most important trophy in the world. Like Cristiano Ronaldo showed today, like almost the Nations League was the most important trophy for him to win. But it means the world really to Cristiano Ronaldo, and that's what the Gold Cup should do as well to the American players. But the reality is it doesn't do that. You know, they are focused or on their club teams, maybe playing in the FIFA Club World Cup from next week on starting, or obviously their focus lies in next year's World Cup on home soil. So to sell this whole Gold Cup, or to sell certain camps where the US national team comes together, is not easy for a manager. Now, I had that issue with the famous January camp, where you invite the top players, you know, throughout MLS to give them possibly 2 friendly games with mainly Central American countries, but you got to shoot them up from 0 to 100 within 4 weeks to play 2 decent national team games. But is that what the players really want? No, absolutely not. Maybe for the ones that never were part of the US national team, so maybe they can show themselves to the coaching staff and working their way into that national team group. But in reality, they don't want to do that at the January camp. But they have to, because there are two games on the line. So there are a lot of kind of little pieces there that obviously Mauricio now works with his coaching staff through those issues. And his communication, obviously, with the club teams, mainly in Europe, is crucial. Then hopefully we get them as excited and as fresh as possible in the months leading into the World Cup.
It's tough, Stevie, for Pochettino in that sense. Like, what can he do about it?
Nothing. Can't do a thing. You know, it's absolutely 100% culture, and you know, these players who are now professionals now, as youngsters growing up, know that the Gold Cup doesn't mean an awful lot. So this is not just all of a sudden the Gold Cup doesn't mean anything, and to try and change that culture in this country, I think is impossible. The Gold Cup will never ever be anything other than looked upon as a chance for others who might not get in the proper US team to have an opportunity. And that's how everybody grows up in this country, looking at the Gold Cup. So they shouldn't be really surprised. And Poch, he's got his back against the wall because there's nothing he can do personally to change it. Yes, he can send a message that he wants people there. Yes, he can send a message that you should treat it as a World Cup or Copa or whatever it is. But the truth is, it doesn't carry the same weight. And the players, as I said, they grow up knowing that the Gold Cup doesn't really matter.
There is something fundamentally wrong for players in this national team to value Copa America, a tournament in which, let me just tell you, you don't belong in Copa America. It's not your competition. You're merely invited to Copa America. It's a CONMEBOL tournament. And I'll say that, I've said that many times, and I'll say it again. Something fundamentally wrong to think that Copa America, for them, for the United States, is more important than Gold Cup. Gold Cup should be their regional competition of choice and of dominance. They should be dominating Gold Cup. They should be winning Gold Cup. That should be the #1 goal. It should be. You dominate your region. And once you dominate your region, you can think about the potential of maybe playing an important role in the World Cup. But until you dominate your region, you're not dominating at the World Cup. You're not skipping steps. This is not how it works. This is not how it works. So for me, it's disappointing that players think that they're above their most important regional competition. That in itself is disappointing. And the other thing I would say is, we're talking about the World Cup being a year from now. Yeah, and on the calendar, it's a year from now. But it is not practically for the national team a year from now. There are very limited opportunities for Mauricio Pochettino to work with his team in preparation for the World Cup. One of those opportunities would have been in a tournament setting in the Gold Cup. So this is a wasted chance for this national team and for this national team players to come together and generate some sort of positive momentum going forward leading to the World Cup.
How hard is it to change this culture, though, with these players, Jurgen, and with these points that the two guys have just brought up here?
Well, it's the way, as Stevie said, and Alejandro knows, it's the way they were brought up. You know, if the way they were brought up, you know, is not to give, you know, this extreme focus and this feeling for the Gold Cup that it's the most important trophy to win first and foremost, then it's difficult to change it over time. Obviously, everybody dreams about the World Cup, you know, and everybody knows that the real competition in the Americas is the Copa America, where you don't belong to, as Alejandro said, because it's CONMEBOL, it's South America. But if you get a chance to play in a Copa America, obviously this is the biggest learning process that you can take your team through, because it's just fantastic teams down in South America. So the juggle with the Gold Cup just never really rose to a way that the players, or probably also the fans, really bought into it, you know. So they're waiting for the Copa America, maybe with the US or Mexico to participate in, and especially they're waiting every 4 years then for the World Cup to show the real face of this US national team.
Ange Postecoglou. On Friday, we heard the news that he'd been sacked as manager of Tottenham Hotspur 16 days after leading Spurs to Europa League glory. Obviously, it also came at the end of their worst Premier League season, finishing 17th. Jurgen, wanted to ask you what you thought about the news.
Well, obviously, you always feel for a coach when he's let go. And especially now, he won the Europa League, which is a huge trophy. And after 17 years for Tottenham, the first trophy, finally to win again. So you don't want to see then the coach leave. On the other side, there's a very kind of negative championship on the surface, you know, with 17th in the Premier League, you know, which is probably the main reason for why Spurs sacked him now. So I only wish him the best now with his next adventure. He proved his point. He proved his point that he's capable to make Spurs win a trophy again, and that will always stay with him.
Just wanted to say that Thomas Frank is the leading candidate right now. Just quickly, what was it you said yesterday about he's not used to having?
Well, my understanding is at Brentford, it's all database. The way they bring players in, the players that they're looking for.
So it's not his own input.
Well, I don't believe so. No, he's coaching the players, but in terms of bringing players in, he's not, as far as I know, he's not going and saying, well, I want this type of player, and I want that type of player, and I want this and that. And so he knows exactly the type of players that are coming in all the time. For his tenure there, it's been the same type of player time and time and time again. You know, he's not getting thrown wobblies and somebody turns up who's like Maradona but doesn't fit the Brentford system. So I just feel as though he's going to be he's going to be way out his comfort zone when he goes to Spurs, because those types of players he's not going to get. He's going to get completely different ones, which is why I'm saying he's out his comfort zone. So we don't know what we're going to get from him.
Do you think that would be a valid concern, Jurgen, if it is to be Thomas Frank at Spurs?
Well, for every manager going into a new environment, the question is always, what is your leverage with the players? What is your leverage with the officials of the club? You know, so the owner, the chairman, the media. So obviously you're under pressure from day one on when you're guiding a club with that magnitude of Tottenham. You know, if you have every home game 60,000 fans waiting for you, so you can only hope for him that, you know, the first couple of games go well. And he can show what he's doing, but the question mark is obviously when you come in from I would say a lower ranked club in general. Not obviously they were higher ranked this season, but is at the end of the day is okay. What is your leverage? What is your leverage with certain star players? You know, with the board, with Daniel Levy. You know how can you argue your position? Can you argue your point? And that's always the biggest challenge for a manager.
What do you think is the right fit then, whether it's a name or a type for Jurgen at Tottenham Hotspur coming in to take over?
Well, the right fit is always a person, you know, and maybe it is Frank, you know, that is respected by everybody. You know, is respected by the board, by the chairman, by the players, and everybody buys into it, into a certain way of, you know, work, you know, because every manager works the training sessions differently, works the media differently, and then the personal relationship that you build and with everyone involved, you know, and nowadays it's so many personnel involved. It's not only the players that you need to handle the whatever, the medical department, the marketing department, the media department, and so forth. You know, it's a huge amount of work that you do every single day, and you just wish that, you know, it clicks among the people. And I think when it clicks between people, and he's a good people person, and he convinced people of his style of doing things, you know, his style of wanted to see how he wants to see football being played, then it might work. It might work, you know, and it's a process, and I hope he's given the time then to show that and to prove that.
Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Frank staying up late for us now that he is back in his homeland of France. Ali and Stevie here in the studio with us too.
It's a lot quieter around here, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, we miss you, Frank. We miss you in the studio.
We missed him for the France coverage against Spain.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we did. We also missed him for that.
Was he not supposed to be here?
He likes to check in 7 hours early for his flight.
He just wants to make sure he gets to the airport on time, I know.
Yes, lodging it in the lounge, no doubt. Okay.
I tell you, I was so happy to do so.
Frank, first question is for you.
I was very happy to do so, I tell you.
Yes. Ryan Cherky, has he got what it takes to be Griezmann's replacement in the France squad?
Well, he has everything. He has all the tools. He's a great player. But, well, he would need to get more experience. He took a little while, you know. Some people would have thought that he could have joined the national team a little bit earlier. He showed some real quality and throughout the years. And now he's linked to some big clubs, so he can grow even if he already had a very good level at Lyon. But I think he still needs some little things, sometimes to make it easier, simpler, like today, where I saw him losing kind of lots of ball, where it was easier to find a solution. But he is a real talent. He's exceptional. Technically, he has all the tools, so I want to wish him the best. If he can be a Griezmann, it's different. Griezmann is not the same type of player. Griezmann was somebody who was seeing the game. Whereas Cherki is more a skillful player.
Okay.
If you're Spalletti, wouldn't you have Frank coach Italy against Moldova? You know, you have a look-alike. You just have Frank take over, and Spalletti doesn't have to coach. Doesn't have to be involved, and then we can work out on the contract afterwards.
You fancy taking over Italy, Frank? One game?
Yeah, the problem is how do I learn Italian in 2 days?
Those are details, Frank. You're an actor. You're an actor. Make it work.
It's all in the hands, Frank. It's all in
Exactly,
the hands.
Oh,
Sì, ok, ma no
Sì,
problema,
okay.
no problema.
there
Niente.
you go. I thought you were an
Niente.
actor. I thought you were a method actor. Good Lord.
Stevie, do the recent performances of Ronaldo for Portugal convince you that he should be starting for them in the upcoming World Cup?
I honestly find it. I understand what everybody's talking about, how he only needs one chance and the rest of it. But if you're going to win the World Cup, you can't afford to carry somebody. Even though if he gets an opportunity, you know he might score or will score.
Have they been carrying him in these Nations League games, though?
Let's just say that there's no question that there'll be three or four players in that team who will be doing extra running for Ronaldo, which is fair enough. You know, Argentina does it with Messi. The problem with Ronaldo, in a year's time, a year when you're 25 to 26 means nothing. When you start getting up in the late 30s and then you hit 40, and then he's going to be 41. Physically, it goes very, very quickly. And we saw, as Ali brought up in the show, this is his second game in 3 or 4 days, and by the 80th minute, something gave in. That is only going to get worse between now and 2026 World Cup. So I just don't see how he's physically going to be able to start for Portugal. Yes, you can have him in the squad. Yes, you can, if you need a goal, you bring somebody like him on for 20 minutes at the end. But honestly, if Ronaldo's starting for Portugal this time, when the World Cup starts in 2026, no, he'll be a passenger.
Who was more impressive tonight, Ale? Lamine Yamal or Nuno Mendes? Did Mendes pocket Yamal?
The answer, based upon tonight's performance, is only one player, 100% Nuno Mendes. He was not only the player of the match, he was some kind of special today. Taking advantage of spaces in advanced positions, doing what you expect attacking players to be doing in those sort of positions, taking on defenders, finishing chances, making good decisions, finding productivity, and on top of all that, defending really well. Not only on Lamine Yamal, but defending really well when they needed him to make a challenge. When Pedri cut to the inside and outside and he's about to score the goal, he makes that block. I think what he did with Lamine Yamal today is that, one, he concerned Lamine Yamal with the defending part of the game, because Nuno Mendes will go up regardless of who the other player is. He doesn't care if it's Lamine Yamal, he still will attack. Some players are intimidated by the fact that they won't get forward, because if I get forward, Lamine Yamal is over there and I have to go chase him back. Nuno Mendes is not concerned about Lamine Yamal. And so he's forcing Lamine Yamal into deeper positions. The other thing that he did is, the first couple of times that Lamine Yamal went to take him either to the inside or the outside, Nuno Mendes, with athleticism and speed, was there side by side with Lamine Yamal, which then forced Lamine Yamal to go back, sideways, and back, to lose the ball in bad areas, and that puts doubt in a player. Nuno Mendes certainly today was, on today's performance, on today and today alone, was absolutely better than Lamine Yamal.
Okay. For Ale, should Bayern Munich pursue Xavi Simons? And will it work out if he played on the left wing and in a front four of him, Musiala, Kane and Elise?
Okay, this is a very simple answer, and it's the same answer to both questions. 9 and 9? No, you stay away from Xavi Simons. If I were Bayern Munich, I'm looking for something different than Xavi Simons. I don't think he gives me something different than what I'm going to get from Jamal Musiala, and Jamal Musiala is a better version of Xavi Simons. I also don't think that you go chase a player like Xavi Simons that saw his team perform at the level that he did this season, Leipzig, and he had no impact in changing the way this team performed, particularly in the attacking half. Leipzig had an awful season in Bundesliga, and Xavi Simons is at the forefront of that. Now, we're not going to put all the blame on him, but he was not outstanding.
Yeah, okay. Frank, with his proven track record in Serie A and Europe, are you surprised there hasn't been more concrete interest in Osimhen from top teams looking for a striker?
Yes, but I was told that it's complicated with the players, complicated maybe with the agent. I don't know, with the contract as well. The amount of the buying, the amount of the wage as well, it can be huge. So I don't have all the things in order to say why and if it's fair to not have any too much offers for Osimhen. What I know is that guy has been outstanding with Lille, has been outstanding with Napoli, and should be, because of the lack of talented strikers, should be looked for from many teams. And if not, must be a reason that I don't have, and I'm surprised too.
Stevie, if you were managing a European side in the Club World Cup, how hard would you push your players in training, or would you leave a little in the tank for the upcoming season come August?
Well, I think the easy answer is you go to the owner or sporting director, whoever's in charge, whoever you're answering to, and you ask them, how important is this tournament to the club? And then you go from there. Because there's no question, the teams that are going to play in this tournament are going to be hurt further down the line. Probably Christmas time, just after Christmas, probably starting to lose legs. Because your whole, as footballers, we're used to a routine. And again, when you throw in a tournament like this, your routine of rest and recovery from the end of a season to a tournament that you're not really sure how it's going to be and what's going to happen, and there's just so many changes. But ultimately, the first and easy, straightforward answer is, if this is important to the club, then that changes how you train and how you play, and just the whole culture of your team in the tournament. The ideal situation would be, look, we don't care, we want to win the Premier League next year. Then that means that as a manager, I can say, you know what, I can just try and blood players, give some players some time, but it doesn't really matter, and take it easy, not train hard, give them a break. So, yeah, it's not a straightforward answer. It's how important is it to the club answer.
Think about this, though, and we were talking about it off camera. Players that were in the Nations League in this Final Four, they now leave their national teams. Do they go on vacation? Nope. No, sir. No, senor. You have to go and join your club at the Club World Cup if they're participating. Players that are down in South America doing Commonwealth World Cup qualifiers right now, are they on vacation after this? No, they're not. You join your team and play the Club World Cup. We're pushing it. We really are pushing it. And to expect these players to perform at a high level after a very long, grueling, taxing, draining physically and mentally year of activity, you're asking them to give this tournament importance. Again, you're pushing it, and we're gonna see that some of the performances will not be to the standards that we expect from some of these players.
Last question. As a player, does it affect you positively or negatively when the crowd boos every time you touch the ball, or do you just completely tune it out? Frank?
Completely tune it out and make me laugh. And I would have been Cucurella, especially because it's only German stupid people who would boo him because of what happened last year with Germany. It's laughable. It's insane. It's stupid. Why do you have to boo a player for 90 minutes or 2 hours today because of what happened something a year ago where he's not responsible for. That's not his fault if the referee decided to not give a, penalty for handball. That's insane. So I would have played with it. I would have played with it to show them that I don't care, or ignore it. Maybe it's better, it's smarter, like Cucurella did. But I'm a little bit fed up with the people who think they have a voice where they should really shut up. And those people have no brain whatsoever to have booed Cucurella. That's done and said.
Especially, by the way, when Germany were not even on the field. Spain did not play against Germany in this Nations League. And yet every time he touched the ball, the German fans, to Frank's point, did what they did. I'll tell you when it, I don't know if it affected me, but it certainly made an impression. We had an open training session for our fans in Venezuela. At that point, our national team coach was in hot water. And I was perceived to have been, because I was usually with him, or tended more times than not to be with him in press conferences, there was this association made that I was his boy. That I was merely there because basically I suppose they felt like he was doing me a favor of some sort, which wasn't the case whatsoever. But because there was this association made in the media, in the open training session, pressure on the manager, every time I touch the ball, our own fans, they started to boo every time I touch the ball. And I'm like, it took me a second to go, they're booing.
Wow.
Oh, they're booing me. Oh, I'm the problem. I see. I'm the problem. But to Frank's point, you end up actually laughing about it because it's so incredibly ridiculous that you just, it makes no difference whatsoever to you as a player.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you've done well there. You've done well there to not let it affect you.
Did it bother you? Would it bother you?
No. No, the only time it would bother anybody, I would assume, would be your home fans. If you're
like a
actual
Trent
fans,
Alexander-Arnold type of situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've done well not to let it affect you. You know, when you're away from home, you do two things. You tune it out, or you use it as fuel. And you just go, okay, that's good. Keep booing, and I'll keep smashing it in the back of the net, or smashing your players, or doing something to make you boo even louder. But I don't know how I would have reacted to my own fans booing me. That would be hard.
I think I was able to recognize that. Well, at least this is what I told myself. I may have been wrong. What I told myself was, they're not really booing me.
They're booing him.
They're booing him.
Right.
But you were teacher's pet.
Apparently, which is very unlike me, but apparently I was. And so yes, there was a connection, and so there I was being booed. And it was during practice. Had it been during the game, maybe it's different, but it was during training and actually became a joke as we went back into the locker room and we were sort of trying to decide if they were booing me or booing another guy, but apparently the consensus was me.
Oh, okay. Nice question. And Frank saying, you could just shut up. There's nothing to say.
Yes.
All right, don't boo Frank, don't boo Stevie. He wouldn't like it. And if you boo Ali, he doesn't even care. See you next time.
But you're asking them to boo me, Kay? Wow, you're on a run today.